Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Ami. I am a nurse practitioner. On this channel, I make videos about nursing topics. I talk about mental health. I make videos about hair tutorials and my journey to financial freedom, which has to do with paying off consumer debts and student loans and later down the line, my mortgage. If these are something that you're interested in, make sure you subscribe and join the family. So earlier on, I made a video about my psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner school, and I wanted to make a video to talk to you guys about my process in finding a preceptor, which is insane, guys. Like it was crazy. So I wanted to make a video about that to see if some of these tips are able to help you to find a preceptor. So I do have my family nurse practitioner degree, and fortunate enough for me when I went to school, the school that I went to, which is in North Dakota, provide preceptors for you. So it was awesome. And at the time, I didn't realize how important and how fortunate I was until I started thinking about going back to school and I started going online, and you hear about all these really horrible stories about how some people are not able to complete their programs because they can't find preceptors. When I realized that I had to go back to school, I started a process right away to look for a preceptor. So depending on the school that you attend and where you work, some schools do not allow you to do your clinical rotations where you work. So for me, I worked in outpatient psychiatry, and it's a private practice, and so they didn't allow me to do clinicals at that where I work. For some people, for some schools, they're able to let you do that. If that's the case, that would be awesome because you're already in the facility, and it's easier for you to be able to talk to your HR to help you find a preceptor, and you can network with providers there to make it a little bit easy. So for me, that wasn't the case. And also, one of the hardest things about finding a preceptor is the fact that some schools are very specific in how many hours that you can complete with the medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and also how many clinical hours that you can complete with a nurse practitioner. So this will have to be specifically psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners. So that limits you in terms of your options and who can precept you. And there's also the requirements that your preceptor have to have at least a year of experience for them to be a preceptor. So that's another thing. And when you mix that with the whole COVID situation, that just makes it even harder to find preceptors because a lot of the facilities were not accepting students. They're just trying to limit as many people as possible just because of they don't want to expose anyone to COVID, and it just made it really hard. So it was a struggle finding a preceptor. So a couple of the things that I did to help me find a preceptor is one, I reached out to the school first. Even though the school does not guarantee or advertise that they provide you preceptors, which is one thing. If you're able to find a school that does, please make sure you go with that school because that will save you a whole lot of money, headaches, and hassles. So make sure you, when you're doing your search about going back to school and about NP school, finding schools that do guarantee preceptors, that's a big deal because you might not be able to complete your program if you don't have a preceptor. So that's a major thing. So for me, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a school that provide preceptors or that guarantee preceptor placement. So I ended up I'm currently at Liberty University. So I contacted the school. So practicum coordinator, which is what they call, is who are contacted and say, hey, this is what my situation is. This was even before, once I applied and they accepted me, I started the process right away. So I emailed them, hey, I'm currently residing in this state. It's very difficult to find preceptors where I'm at. What can you guys do to help? So they sent me a list of individuals that previous students had used in the past, and their contact information. So they have their emails and phone numbers. And unfortunately, I live in North Dakota, and it's like living in Alaska almost or something like that. And they don't have a lot of students from North Dakota, period. So that made it really even difficult. They did have some preceptors that are in the cities, which are about 4 hours away where I'm at. But when I contacted those preceptors, no one responded back. I think it was like maybe four of them. So I didn't get any respond back. So then I went back, and with a place where I worked as a nurse, I contacted them because that's the same place when I was going to school for my FNP. That facility was the one that I went to for my clinical site. So I contacted them and say, hey, my name is such and such. But at the time, I no longer work at that facility, but I was there for about 5 years as an RN. So I contacted the HR department, and because I had their phone number and everything else. So I contact them and say, hey, my name is such and such. I used to work for you guys. I'm currently in school for my postmaster's degree in mental health, and I'm really looking for preceptors. Is there any way that you guys can help? And one of the major obstacles for a lot of schools is that the facilities usually have contracts with the schools around them. So if you are going to an online program, a school that's mostly online, it makes it really difficult for you to find a preceptors, because those facilities around you are already contracted to schools that are closer to you, which means that they only take their students. So you as an outsider coming in, it's going to be very difficult. You have to have very strong connections within that facility for you to be able to get placement there. So which was the case. So I called majority of the major hospitals and clinics around my area. I had like maybe about 15 list of just different facilities, hospitals, outpatient clinics, private practice, and things of that nature. So all I did was went to each one of their websites. And sometimes I even have to like fill out applications because usually for the outpatients clinic, there's an area where you fill in information as like a student. That is if they don't have phone numbers of who you can reach if you're looking for a job, which is what I ended up doing most of the time, is just contacting those individuals by phone. So I left a message explaining who I am as an individual. Like, my name is Aminata. I am a family nurse practitioner where I've been working for the past couple of years or whatever, how long, and then tell them that I'm looking for preceptors. I left my phone number. I also sent an email with a little bit more in-depth information about who I am as an individual. I also added my resume and then my contact information. So I did that for about 15 of the places that I was looking for placement, and some of them got back to me, some of them did not. And then after at least every 2 weeks, I will send another email, follow-up email, or phone call, leaving a message. And at that time, this was back in like January, like COVID was still very, very much a problem. So no one was getting back. A lot of the people were not getting back to me. So it was really difficult. And usually if we didn't have COVID, I would have literally just drive to all those places. And because if people put a face to the voice and the name, and sometimes just your personality overall, it's a little bit easier for people to want to help you, just because if they see you in person and your personality, like, okay, I wouldn't mind helping her out. But COVID made it really difficult because at that time, a lot of the offices were not open. So I just kept calling. And then fortunate enough for me, there was this lady that I came across. So sometimes for the facilities that I was calling, they will say, okay, we don't accept students at this time, but you can call this person. So they started giving me contact information of other individuals that I can contact. So I came across this lady that was super helpful. Like, I've never met her before. I talked to her on the phone maybe once, but we were doing mostly emails. So she was pretty much helpful in finding preceptors for students, but she doesn't get paid for it. So she kind of send your information to different places, kind of what you're doing, but she's a little bit more known in the community. So she did that for me, and then we're communicating back and forth over a couple of months actually, and finally there was two places that accepted me as potentially could have accepted me as a student. So one of them was private practice, where the person was on her own as a nurse practitioner, but one of the roadblocks with her was that she was a certified nurse practitioner, what they call CMS. So they are nurse practitioners, one of the first programs for psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners prior to when the program came for PMHNP. So for most schools, they don't accept them, like they can't be your preceptors, even though they are specialized in psychiatry, but because their education in their program is a little bit different than what it is now, most schools don't accept it. So that was a big thing for me. I was like, okay, I finally found someone that can help me out. And you guys said, no, I can't use this person. And then the other facility was an outpatient psychiatry as well, and a private practice. So it was between myself and another student, and I was just like, oh my God. So they did an interview where I met with a couple of the providers, and they interviewed me, and I was super nervous because that was my only last chance and my only option at this point, because everyone else was saying no. Even I joined a Facebook group for a PMHNP, and all you hear on there is just all these horrible stories. Once in a while, you find some people there that are willing to precept you, and that's on a rare occasion. So sometimes people go on the PMHNP Facebook group, you join, and then you can talk about who you are as an individual, where you live, where you're looking for preceptors. Some people are willing to travel to different states. For me, I have 2 kids, so that wasn't really an option to travel to a whole new states to do clinicals, but I've heard that some people would have to do that to be able to find preceptors. So that those are some things that you can do as well. Contacting other students that have gone through the program to see if they're already working as nurse practitioners, maybe they're willing to precept you, and things like that. But a lot of the times it makes it really difficult, because you do have some nurse practitioners that want to precept students, but the facility, they're limited in where they work, because the student have to go through the facility and they have to accept the students before you can precept the person. So overall, that's kind of my process in finding a preceptor. I was able to get into this one facility. That's outpatient psychiatry, and they're able to have me do my clinicals for the fall, for the summer semester and the fall. So currently I'm finishing up with my summer semester for the program, which is 224 hours, and in the fall semester I have to complete 280 hours. So I'm fortunate enough and blessed to be able to find the site. But all I can say is, if you are a student looking for a preceptor, one, connect, networking. If the school let you do your clinicals where you work, that's awesome. Try to do that. If you can find a school that provides you preceptor, that's the number one. That's the goal to do. One thing that you can do to help save you the headaches, but if you can, is networking with people where you work, other students that have gone through the program, or even current students that you're in the program with. Maybe they know someone that can precept you, or their preceptor is able to precept you as well. So those are things that you can do. They do have some preceptor sites that you pay for, and I looked into that as well, and they were charging like $11 an hour. That would have cost me about over $4,000 just for clinicals, which is insane, because you're already paying so much money for school, and having to pay someone else just to precept you, it's just crazy. But you got to do what you got to do. So this is an investment that you're making on yourself, and you can make that money back once you graduate, and a lot more. So if you have to do that and they guarantee you a preceptor, that's fine. It's one of the sites that I looked into was Preceptor Link. Again, roadblock for me was that they didn't even have preceptors where I was at. Again, I don't know why. I live in North Dakota, so some people just don't, I don't know, I guess they probably don't have a lot of students from North Dakota. So they were telling me a lot of the places that they had was in Philadelphia. I'm like, okay, I'm not paying all this money to go to a whole new state just to do clinicals. So, but that's an option for some people, where they're able to find your preceptors in your state, or some people are able to travel. For me, that wasn't an option. So overall, that's pretty much it for preceptors wise. Right now, since the places are starting to open back up, in terms of COVID is starting to settle down a little bit, people are getting vaccinated. If you have the opportunity to just drive to different facilities and just have your resume and ask if you can speak to a hiring manager, or someone that's HR, and then you can just talk to them. Even if they said no, it's okay. Ask for their contact information, email them again, thanking them for taking the time out. That it's kind of like an interview, a job interview, pretty much. But and that's pretty much it for this video. I hope this video is helpful. I made other videos about this program that I'm attending currently, so you can check those videos out. And that's pretty much it. Until next time, guys, stay positive, be kind to one another, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.